I'd like to share this quote by Pulitzer Prize-winning author Junot Díaz. It's that if you want to make a human being into a monster, deny them at the cultural level any reflection of themselves. And growing up, I felt like a monster in some ways. I didn't see myself reflected at all. I was like, yo, is something wrong with me? That the whole society seems to think that people like me don't exist? And part of what inspired me was this deep desire that before I died, I would make a couple of mirrors. That I would make mirrors so that kids like me might see themselves reflected back and might not feel so monstrous for it. Growing up in small town Canada, I didn't see myself reflected in my culture. Granted, there was Connie-chan in the media, and I think I applied to journalism school, Carleton, because of it, and there were always these glimpses of actual Asian, maybe even Korean people floating in the background on the TV show MASH. But not really anywhere else. And that made me angry. That made me want to change things because I knew it wasn't right. I mean, how was there no place for me? Even when I was 10 and I auditioned for my first play, I knew I wanted to challenge this, and I have strived to do so for the past 30 years. But I think I've spent a good part of my career trying to will this acceptance. That if I worked hard enough, if I was just lucky enough that I could change the system. If people could just see my talent and my soul, that it wouldn't matter what I look like in an image-based industry. If I had the chance to be the story, then I too would be accepted as the hero. And to a great extent, that method worked. I worked really hard. I was very lucky, and a very few key people saw my talent, and it didn't matter what I looked like. But from the bottom of my heart, I am searching for another way now. Because watching kids' movies and programs with my nieces and my kids' friends now, I realize how shockingly little has changed in the past 30 years. I mean, like, there's definitely been exceptions like Miyazaki films and the terrific Nickelodeon show, The Last Airbender. But we all know what happened when they made that into a film. And if you don't, look it up. I really don't think people understand what it does to a child when they never see themselves as the hero of the story. I've always been curious, what are the subtle and deep effects that get passed down when a child doesn't see themselves reflected in the culture, when they rarely see themselves in the books that they read or the films that they watch like 100 times over, or ever hear their own accents on the TV shows that they're obsessed with, where their characters feel like negative or untrue, when their image is always the tiny one that's squished into the back of the poster, where their character gets to speak just a little, and where they are there to help support the real hero of the story, which is usually the white character. I wonder what happens to a free and open child when they begin to internalize and accept the dominant views of society. And these kids, who then bring these beliefs and frustrations into adulthood. I mean, I wonder how many of us here right now, what we're carrying. I remember watching, seeing Toilet Club for the first time. I saw it at the Vancouver Film Festival with filmmaker Mina Shum. And I bawled through all the Toilet Club, like racking sobs. Like, way too much for what the film called for. Yeah, really, it was like way too much. And through those tears, I understood that despite all the times that I had related to characters on screen previous to that moment, despite how like talented and true like Meryl Streep is, and for all the times that I have laughed and cried and related to her as she played mother and child and hero, that was never enough. There was so much more to feel. And I realized, I didn't realize until that moment when I actually saw someone who looked like myself on screen, that I had been missing so much. And what I had been missing. My story. My mother's story. My parents' story. I remember when President Obama was elected for the first time, I was on the set of Grey's, and it was super exciting. They brought all these TVs on set, and everyone was elated. And then I noticed one of our African American crew members was weeping, and at first I was concerned, but then I understood. I understand now that all the good intentioned anger and energy and desire for change I felt in the past was my own grief. Grief at the absence of seeing my own truth reflected. So, like Mr. Diaz's wish, I too would like to create some mirrors. I just want to just really quick share with you an email exchange I had with a dear friend of mine, Joan, who was the showrunner, the head writer of Grey's Anatomy for 5 years. She and her husband have 2 children. The youngest, Sally, who is 12, is adopted from China. January 14th, 2014, from Joan. Sally, tonight, apropos of nothing. I used to think I was kind of ugly because I had squinty eyes, and then I met Sandra, and she has squinty eyes and is beautiful, and now I don't think I'm ugly. We've never had a conversation with Sally about her eyes or anything, but she is getting all these bad feelings from all the media around her. She will love a giant hug from you next time she sees you. Joan. January 15th, 2014. Joan. I get this magazine called Korean, news and articles about and for Korean Americans. This morning I was reading an article about how K-pop is a huge influence on the influx of teen plastic surgery. Korea is the #1 country for plastic surgery, and 20% of those who get it done are teenagers. I was in the shower thinking of my own struggle with accepting my face, thinking how I would never be seen as beautiful as I am, or even be able to find work in Korea. And then I thought about this older woman, an acquaintance of my mother who lives in Korea, who asked me, in a slightly accusatory way, "You've never done anything to your face, have you?" When I replied no, she responded, "We can tell." Don't change it. I wonder if I am one of the only female Korean faces who is actually on Korean television media, because Grey's Anatomy airs there, that has not been surgically altered. I was granted a life of growing up in Canada, had the parents I did, and was graced with a talent and determination, yet still I grew up hating my face, loathing my eyes, and believing I was ugly. So, to read your email of what Sally said at the breakfast table this morning, I burst out crying. If I could relieve for 1 second the difficulty and inner struggle of being different from Sally, I would feel great meaning in my life. To reach that 10-year-old girl, the one that I once was, and to help her accept herself is the whole point for me. That's why I'm here, and why I think I've been so blessed for her.
I see Sally, I'm going to give her a super hug, but won't tell her what it's for. Sandra, thank you very much.